many of us were introduced to Robin Hood through the Disney movie. Well, I can certainly say I was. And it's interesting because I think this is the only Disney film where all the characters are anamorphic life forms. Oh, there's other movies where they use them, but I think this is the first one where every character throughout the entire flick is half human, half animal. There's no people in it. I'm not sure why they decided to make this the only one, but it works okay. Having Robin Hood as a fox is a clever idea. Little John is this gigantic bear, that works out pretty well. And the others lend their way to a lot of creative jokes also. Okay, what's the story? Well, as Robin Hood goes, I guess it follows it pretty close. Robin Hood robs from the rich and gives to the poor in order to defeat Prince John. He's in love with the lovely Maid Marian and tries to win an archery contest but gets caught in the process, only to fight off the men through many battles and many fun-raising adventures. There's a lot of the cutesiness that you'd expect from a film like this, but actually there are some very entertaining action scenes. Despite it being animated, I'd say many of these scenes are just as impressive as the Errol Flynn version. You can get away with a lot more, so it looks more impressive. Robin is pretty much your very basic nice hero, and Maid Marian is very much your very typical nice maiden. Just a nice little romance to soak up the kids' attention. They stay in their basic roles, and I guess that works out okay. Though have you ever noticed that Maid Marian just disappears in the last third until they get married? Couldn't they at least have a scene where he says goodbye to her before he goes off to adventure, or maybe she's helping out with the scheme, or maybe she's watching him as he's running away? I don't know. She had so many scenes before, why just cut her out of the third act? Well, anywho, the villain is Prince John, and he's a very fun comedic villain, especially when working off of his sidekick, Hiss. He's definitely a very femmy villain, and a lot of times that leads to a lot of very funny moments, including some great arguments with Hiss, which makes them look very much like a married couple.
No. I knew it. I just knew this would happen. I tried to warn you, but no, you wouldn't listen. You just had to. 7 years bad. Ooh. Luck.
When watching it again, I actually found the Sheriff of Nottingham was pretty funny too. He's just such a bastard in the various ways he'll find to rip people off. Even a blind person, that is evil.
What a dirty trick.
The climax is one of the best in Disney history. I know that's weird seeing how they're all cutesy animals, but it's a really suspenseful climax. The first half of it is done very much in silence. A lot of whispering, a lot of quiet music, a lot of sneaking around. And then once the cover is blown, it's just fast-paced action throughout the rest of it. It's just great because everywhere the main character turns, there's always something else trying to get him. He just cannot get a break throughout this entire scene. You got arrows flying at him, axes, henchmen, fire, and it just keeps building higher and higher throughout the castle. It's a really good setup.
Shoot him!
Overall, Robin Hood is a very good kids' adventure film. It's not great, and I don't know how many great things are really in it, but it is very entertaining. Some parts drag, but when it doesn't, it's a lot of fun. Kids will definitely love it, and my guess is some of the adults might find themselves getting sucked in as well.
Oodle-lolly, golly, what a day!
It's one of Jodie Foster's first big hits, Freaky Friday. Yeah, this is just at the time when the whole switching body and mind things was kinda big, and Disney had to do their take on it too. And for what they did, it's not bad. The story is about as textbook as you can get. A mother and daughter don't get along and they're constantly screaming at each other, and one day they say, "Wouldn't it be great if we switched places and you knew what it was like to be me?" Well, one day, that's exactly what happens. They switch around and sure enough, they're stuck in each other's bodies. The daughter has to be mother and the mother has to be daughter. As you imagine, they're in way over their head, they have trouble making friends, and yeah, they find out maybe it is hard being this person. The movie was a big hit when it came out, and yeah, I can kinda see why. It is funny, it is charming, both actresses do a good job impersonating the other, but there is a part of me that feels it's just a little too dated. Not to say that isn't funny at times or really a lot of fun, but I don't know, don't you know exactly from the beginning where this is gonna go, and don't you know half of these jokes that are coming? And I think with a story like this that's been done so many times, you have to add a little bit more to it, and here I just don't see that much more added. Again, apart from two very funny performances and sort of the standard textbook stuff that you do with this story. But it's cute, it's fun. Like I said, everybody acts well, even if it is over the top at times. Seeing them interact in different environments while still keeping that mindset is always cute to see. I don't know, it just for me, I feel like nothing too much else is added to it, so I don't know the incredible value of watching it, except maybe for the performances, which are funny, but not phenomenal. I don't even know really what else to say about it. It's cute. If you want to see a story about a mother and a daughter who switch places and they have to interact, it's fine. I just wish they could have added something a little bit more. But maybe that's not what it's supposed to be. Maybe it's just supposed to be your straightforward comedy with this straightforward scenario, and that's pretty much what you get. Like I said, not too much of a review because I just can't think that much to say about it, but if you're into this kind of very basic story, you'll like it fine. If you want something a little bit more meaty, well, maybe take a look at the remake. Yeah, I just said that. You wanna know why? Go watch the next video.
Like to be you for a day.
Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh.
Who doesn't love Winnie the Pooh? Hell, he's like one of the most innocent things on the planet. I think there's a law actually forbidding people not to like him. I know people who despise Mickey Mouse, but they can't bring themselves to actually say they hate Winnie the Pooh. So what is it? What is it that just makes him so likable? Well, I think a lot of it has to deal with the fact that, while he is very optimistic, he does make mistakes, and he does get in trouble. He's very naive, but he's also very pleasant. And I think that makes him much more interesting than someone like Mickey Mouse. He's still positive, but there's just much more of a character to play with. And it all started with this one film, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. These characters are so famous now, I don't even have to name them. Kanga, Roo, Tigger, Owl, Rabbit, Piglet, Eeyore, the list goes on. The story is very loose in that there's not that much of a flowing narrative. It's just sort of the life of Pooh and his friends through the course of, I don't know, a year maybe? It's just all the troubles, circumstances, and weird situations they get in, and how they manage to live or get around it. As a kid, I liked it fine, but watching it now years later, actually, it's a lot better than I remember it. They actually make a lot of fourth wall jokes using the book that they're in, and even sometimes talk with the narrator.
And so we come to the next chapter in which...
But I haven't finished yet.
But Pooh, you're in the next chapter.
Oh, what happens to me?
Well, let's turn the page and find out.
But that's not the only reason it's good. There's just this sense to it, this atmosphere, this real likability to this world that they've created. It's very laid back, it's very slow paced, but at the same time, these characters are just so interesting and so nice that you really enjoy spending time with them. You don't care if not much is going on. You could just have a conversation with any one of these people and you'd probably be very satisfied. I really like movies like that. They don't feel they have to stick to the 3-act structure and instead just let you shoot the shit for a bit. They just let characters breathe and do whatever it is they do. And these characters are really enjoyable and the situations they get in are really enjoyable. We got some real creative scenarios with a windstorm, Pooh trying to get more honey, and of course another trippy as hell Disney scene with epilumps and woozles.
A heffalump or woozle is very confusal. A heffalump or woozle's very sly. Sly.
The songs are catchy and clever. The animation, I think, actually matches the mood and style they're going for. And like I said, there's just a real heavy atmosphere to it. Especially like the ending. There's no big climax, no chase scene, no major discoveries. It's just Christopher Robin talking with his imaginary friend. And the inevitability of the future.
Pooh, when I'm away just doing nothing, will you come up here sometimes?
You mean alone? Just me?
Yes. And Pooh, promise you won't forget me? Ever?
Oh, I won't, Christopher. I promise.
That's actually kind of heavy stuff. Winnie the Pooh is not often looked at as one of the great Disney films, but it is looked at as one of the great Disney characters. And that's all the film is, just enjoying this character and all the people that surround him. It's clever, it's nice, it's friendly. I really enjoyed watching it again. In fact, it's one of the few Disney films where I like it just as much as a kid as I do as an adult. It takes me right back to that same place I enjoy, and I always love coming back. It's arguably the most popular film of several past generations, Star Wars. What can you say about a franchise as huge as this? Well, I can say I was introduced to it by the Ewoks. Yep, the Ewoks cartoon is what got me into watching these movies. Actually, even that's not even true. The Ewoks cartoon got me into watching the Ewoks movies that went to TV, then that got me into watching the actual movies. The reason I bring this up is that I didn't really have much hype for it. Nobody said this is a cinematic masterpiece, it's one of the greatest movies ever made, it's phenomenal. Granted, I did see images from it all over the place, but for the most part, I discovered it myself. And like a lot of people, I not only greatly enjoyed it, but found great value in just how many levels it entertained on. Kids could watch it, adults could watch it, you could tune in for the action or read into the symbols, admire how new it is, but also cheerfully paying homage to, laugh and cheer while also analyzing what a very detailed mythos it is. The story, as I'm assuming most of you know, is about an evil empire that's taken over the galaxy and wants to finish off the last of the rebellion. A rebel spy named Princess Leia hides the plans to destroy their newest weapon called the Death Star with two droids named R2-D2 and C-3PO. They come across a farm boy named Luke and a magical hermit named Obi-Wan. They realize they have to get these plans to the rebels, so they come across a pilot named Han Solo and Chewbacca. On their way, they get snagged by the evil empire led by the sinister Darth Vader, and end up trying to rescue the princess while also destroying the evil weapon before it destroys them. Okay, so what can I say about this film that everybody hasn't said before? Well, for one, it's not perfect. Which I know doesn't sound shocking nowadays, but for a time before the internet, that was something you almost never said. Everybody loved Star Wars and thought frame by frame was just the ultimate masterwork. But as much as I love it, you gotta admit some of it's pretty corny. Actually, a lot of it. But in the best way. The acting at times can be a little hokey. Remember Princess Leia's weird British accent? Or Luke's ear-gratingly whiny voice? Or Solo's constant complaining? Yeah, watch it again and tell me you don't pick up on some of this. On top of that, some of the dialogue can be pretty lame. Like when Leia tells the villains she should have noticed their foul stench when she was brought on board. Snap? There's also a billion plot threads that don't make sense, but I kinda let those go because, it's fantasy, and that's never what the focus of fantasy really is. The magic doesn't lie in the details, but in how many different ways it can speak to you, as well as several generations. And that's what Star Wars does really well. As cliched and hokey some of these characters can be, we all relate to them. The wide-eyed Luke Skywalker, the cynical Han Solo, the wise Master Teacher, the villain with a past. It really is clever in how much it takes from certain stories. From fairy tales to folklore to Kurosawa to Stanley Kubrick, and even Flash Gordon. In fact, a lot from Flash Gordon. Throw in the special effects of 2001 but mixed with the pacing of, say, a James Bond movie at the time, and you have something that was very unique. It explains all the areas you want to know about and keeps vague the areas you don't want to know about. The Force is a perfect example of that. It's the magic energy that flows through us all and can help people if they know how to use it. That can be anything. It can be religion, it can be Taoism, it can be the power of God, it can be the power of the mind. There's so many ways you can interpret it. The beauty of the film is in its simplicity. But with that said, there is a lot of detail in the techniques. The effects at the time were groundbreaking and done for not a very big budget. It just took a lot of time, energy, and devotion, as well as pretty good actors interacting off of them. For as simple as these archetypes are, and yeah, sometimes as awkward as they can be, you still connect with them very quickly. We don't know much about Darth Vader yet, but by God, James Earl Jones' voice gives him such a history. You can tell this is a guy who means business because he's been through a lot, and all of that just comes through the voice. And the seriousness that everybody takes this dialogue that a lot of other people would kind of see as silly, adds a surprising credibility to this world. A world that creates an environment that both seems very simple but somehow complex at the same time. Sure, it's silly, but it's endearing, and puts a lot of thought in the areas that you want to put a lot of thought into, as a lot of good myths do. Is it one of the great myths? Well, I don't know if I can go that far. I'd still say probably check out a lot of the traditional ones to get an idea of what great storytelling is. But for the film industry at the time, and even you could kinda argue today, you don't really see that many myths. At least, not new ones. And not one that captures so many of the important elements so creatively and with such fun. Yeah, I know, I guess I'm saying what everybody says about this movie, but I can't help it. It's good. I really enjoyed it as a kid, and I really enjoy it now. Okay, I can't quite join the group and say it's one of the greatest things I've ever seen, but it has definitely left an impact on me, and for the right reasons. For me, it was a gateway to other myths. An introduction to simple storytelling that can lead to vast worlds. and I appreciate it greatly for that. I see its flaws, but the stuff that's good is just too clever to overlook. I don't know if it's the stroke of a creative artist or a jumbled mess that accidentally turned out something great, but it's a lot of fun to both watch and analyze. I can see why they show it in film classes and analyze it here and there. Is it overplayed? Sure. Do we praise it too much? Probably. But it's a great starting point for opening up to more great stories. So grab your lightsaber, get into your X-Wing, and may the Force be with you.